Hey, Sam, thanks for doing this again. It's good to see you. Um, so they've announced a change in the practice plan, and I'm wondering about how it's going to be different for you guys with a 20-hour rule when you first start, which is a lot different for both players and coaches. Can you talk about coping with the practice plan that you've got?
Yeah, I mean, looking forward on this, you basically have 40 days to get 25 practices in. You're not going to have near the time, obviously, for the walks, for the off day meetings. We're going to have 2 days off instead of one now. On one of the off days, we can still have a 2-hour meeting with them. But instead of just looking forward only, you have to look back. And what what the SEC has allowed us to do here recently is gain hours, times, walkthroughs that we basically are going to lose in the future. So I'll guess whenever it all evens out that the time will be approximately the same. It's just going to be spread over a larger number of days. So, I mean, it is what it is. They give us all the same rules, but we do have a schedule ready. I think we found out maybe yesterday, day before, what the SEC decided to do, and we're ready to go on our schedule. And I, on paper, we like it.
Okay. And then you're going to play your first season in the league, and as a head coach, you're going to play a 10-game all-conference schedule. Just what were your thoughts when you found out that was going to be the course? And did you have any input or say in the two opponents you guys pick up?
Well, I've said ever since I got the job, we're in the SEC West, exactly where the University of Arkansas belongs. And so –
Audio's gone.
What's up, Nate? But anyway, no, I don't have any input at all of who we play, and the 10-game SEC schedule. It is what it is. I mean, we're going to have to go play. That's what our conference is. So we'll go out there and play them. We're looking forward to it actually, and the two opponents we won't find out for another day or two.
Okay. Appreciate it, man.
Sarah?
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, how's the team been handling all of the news that's going on right now, the season being pushed back and the all SEC schedule?
I'll be honest with you. I think the kids, they just want to play, and we just want to coach. And obviously, we want to do it in the safest environment we possibly can, but they want to play. And when we told them that as of this point that there's going to be a season, they were ecstatic. I mean, it's like anything. If you work towards something, you want to reap the benefits of 10 Saturdays or 12 or 13 or depending on how far you go, 15, 16 games, 15 games, whatever it is, you want to be able to go play. And so they were really excited about that, and I was excited for them, and our coaching staff are very excited.
And has there been any position changes on the team so far?
We've probably changed a lineman maybe from a tackle to a guard or a guard to a tackle, not specifically across the ball. Besides, we had, I guess you could call it a change. He never practiced at tight end, but Blaine Toll moved the tight end on paper. We never had a practice or anything. And before we started practicing, or not practicing, but walking through and all this, we moved him back to defensive end. We thought that he could help us over there after being able to watch him run a little bit and seeing what his size was. And we thought he might rush the passer over there a little bit for us. So we moved him back over to where we originally recruited him at.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much.
Nikki? Coach, how are you feeling about the offensive uptick that you guys have been able to do with the walkthroughs and just how everyone has, picked up Kendall Briles' offense?
I tell you what, Nikki, this time has been invaluable. I mean, I don't know what day this is today in it, maybe 4, 9, maybe 11. I don't know the number for sure, but I'll say this, these things have been outstanding. And the coaching going on, the kids, the learning, the ability of 20 hours a week, obviously until tomorrow, but 20 hours a week of teaching. It's been awesome. It hasn't been spring ball because obviously you can't hit and things of that nature, but the mental part of it has been probably better than even what spring ball would have been about learning the offense for Kendall. And I'm having to learn it too. And so I'm pretty much caught up to speed. So I imagine the players will be too.
We've heard some reports that, Ricky Stromberg is getting a lot of work at center. What's the logic behind that move? And then Ty Clary, where do you see him fitting in for next season?
Well, Ty's playing center for us, and, we haven't put the pads on. So we're trying to find our 5 best players on the offensive line, and then number 6 and number 7 and all that. But you can't have your 3rd or 2nd best player playing behind your best player just because he plays left tackle. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So we're trying to find our 5 best, and the hardest place to play on the O-line is center. And so we're trying to develop at least 3 centers. If we could get more in the top 10, we would do that too. But we're trying to at least be able to travel and have 3 deep at center. And therefore, we started looking at Ricky at center, and he's played a lot of it in these walkthroughs for us. And Ty obviously has played center as well. And so I'm sure if that was the case, that they both would stay at center, they'd have a competitive battle there. And then you'd have to look to see if the one who didn't win the center spot, is he in our top 5 to play for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Very big.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Hey, Trey.
So I was curious a little bit about that schedule. I don't expect you to lay it all out for us right now, but are you thinking Tuesdays, Wednesdays? You mentioned you'd have 2 off days. How do you kind of plan to structure that?
3, there's 6 weeks, I guess. So I'm looking at 3, 3, 5, 4, 5, 5, and different weeks. We're trying to keep Sunday as the day off, Saturday for the most part. Early Saturday as your 2-day meeting. As we start scrimmaging and doing things on Saturday, then Thursday would be our day off there along with Sunday. Sunday will always be our day off during camp.
And recently the roster was released, and there was a lot of fluctuation in the weights from just in the spring. I was wondering if you could comment on some of those guys. You pleased with what you've seen with the weight? I know Jalen St. John was up at 359. I don't know if that's a weight that you want him at, but can you just comment on that?
We want to put weight on our offensive linemen again. I'm not saying a 275-pound man can't block a 315 or 30-pound man. I'm not saying that, but I would like to have a little bit more anchor. Obviously, everybody, I would assume, knows that I like big offensive linemen. But Jalen, we're working with him. He's with our nutritionist, all that. He's big, and we're working with him. Maybe take a little bit of weight off so he could get his foot speed better. But the other guys, like Myron, I don't know how many pounds he's gained, but
225.
I'm looking at 285 to 315, 320, maybe even bigger, but depends on how much running we do, after walkthroughs. But all of them, Ricky, if you look at Ricky, and I heard he was 260 and he's right at 300. He might be a little bigger than 300. So, but the key is not only are they getting bigger, but can they move, and not lose that quickness and gain more power. I've been really, really pleased. Of course, Jamil Walker, I think we have as good a strength coach as anybody in the country, but our kids have done a good job, and they've all gained weight. I thought we needed a bigger football team. I think if you look at our team, we do have speed, but I thought we needed to get bigger to compete in this league, and we're certainly headed that direction.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Demetrius?
How you doing, Coach Pittman?
What's up, man?
I was just curious, since the season, practice has started, who are some of the emerging leaders? Then out of those leaders, who are maybe some guys that you have potentially looking at as team captain?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's start with defense first. McClellan, Bush, Mo Brown, those guys in the secondary have really they're as hard a working group as we have. So I'm really impressed with them. Newcomer wise, Jerry Jacobs has been a nice leader. If you go at linebacker, Poole's done well. But I mean, how do you know they're not hitting? But I'm talking about learning and being on time and talking to the team. I'm assuming that's what you're asking. Draper's been good. Xavier Kelly's been outstanding. John Marshall on the defensive line front on offense. Franks has done a good job, and of course Rakeem. And then the line, it's kind of hard to segment out a guy in there because they work well together. Myron would be the guy there possibly that would have at this point the most leadership skills, along with Dalton Wagner.
All right, thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Bob?
Hey Sam, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, Bob.
We were talking to Hunter Yurchek the other day, and he was really praised you for how you're leading the program through all this unprecedented stuff we're dealing with. And it's your first time as an SEC head coach. What is it you've drawn upon, in your background that's enabled you to kind of navigate through all this as well as you've done so far?
Oh, I guess my parents, I mean, to be honest with you, it's, I always said, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. The bottom line is you have problems with problems when you don't address the first one, and then it becomes a second one, then it becomes a third one, and you get behind in what you probably should have addressed in the first place. You might not have had the second problem. So we're handling as best we know how everything that's coming across, and y'all know it happens daily. There's so much stuff that happens every day, especially with all the different scenarios that's going on in the world. And so communication, we have no problem talking to our players just exactly like you and I are talking right now. And so we're pretty much an open book here, and we talk to our kids and explain why we're doing things and why we have to adjust. And to be honest with you, they're the ones that need to be patted on the back, because everything that we've done, they just said, okay, Coach, we trust you. This is what we should do. And I think that says a lot about our coaching staff, certainly more than about me.
I guess maybe a follow-up to that. Seems like every day you hear about Louisville shutting down practice because, kids went to a party, or, Rutgers is doing it, or whoever it might be. A lot of schools are having these issues. You haven't had that issue yet at Arkansas. How happy does that make you? And just what do you think's been the key to that?
I'll tell you what, I don't know what's been the key, but I'm ecstatic about how we've handled COVID. Now, Hunter's he got more specifics about that, but it's it's something that you sure would like to happen, but obviously it's not happening over every place in the world or in America or in football. But we've done a nice job. I'll leave it at that. And I'm very, very proud of our staff, our building, the people in our building. I mean, it's not just the football team. It's the secretaries, the strength staff, the medical staff. I mean, a lot of people here, and they're all being really, really good about the mask and handling this virus.
Thanks. Yeah, if you got time, come back around.
Okay.
Otis.
Coach Pittman,
Yes, sir.
what status is Jaqueline McGee?
Sir?
But Jaqueline McGee, you signed him in February, but
Yeah.
he hasn't been in the
Yeah.
roster.
Mm-hmm.
What's his
Jaqueline is not on our team, and I don't believe that he'll be on our football team.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Hutch.
Yeah, Coach, I was curious now that you've had a few walkthrough practices and everything. Have y'all settled in on a base defense, like whether it's going to be a 3 or 4 man front or anything like that?
No.
Do you have a timeline for when y'all would like to have a base defense, or does it take like actually having practices in camp and stuff?
I don't know if we know what we are for sure yet. I mean, again, do you have 3 outstanding players and you're running a three-man front, or do you have 4? Do you want to get it? Do you have a big enough size to do that? Do you have the quickness? Right now, we are practicing multiple defenses because I think that's, in all honesty, Andrew, I think that's what we're going to run. I think we're going to be a multiple defense, and I think what you're going to end up doing is going, okay, 42% of the time they run this front, 35% of the time they run that front. To be honest, if you look back in Barry Odom's history, it's been that way ever since he was a defensive coordinator. So if I knew exactly what we're doing, and I've got an idea, but percentage-wise, it would probably end up being pretty heavy in at least 2 different fronts, possibly 3.
And then also you talked about finding your best 5 on the offensive line. At what point of camp would you like to maybe settle in on that 5 and not have guys switching around and stuff?
Well, with your first 5, you'd probably like to do that no later than 2.5 weeks before your first game. The other guys, 6, 7, 8, they'll always swing. I mean, they'll be, until you can get 10 good offensive linemen, you'll have your third tackle and you'll have your third guard and you'll have your second center guard combination, all those things. So I'd like to settle in maybe 2.5 weeks before the first game with exactly what we're going to do. And, of course, the injuries disrupt all that. So therefore, you have to have your third best tackle that can play both sides, et cetera. So I hope I answered your question.
Yep. Thanks, Coach.
Carlos.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you. Looking what's happening around the country in other sports, not allowing fans or spectators, how much of an advantage Arkansas is going to have, especially when playing away and not having the opponent that you face in 40, 60,000 fans cheering for them? How much an advantage will be for your team not having fans in the stand when you play away?
Well, first of all, I do not know what the fan status is here, away, or not. But certainly, if the fans aren't able to go to the game and you're not dealing with crowd noise, it certainly would be more advantageous for the visiting football team than what it would if there was. But obviously, I'm hoping that COVID, that we get a fix to this and like everybody else is, and we can have a lot of people in the stands, but I do not know that answer at all. And obviously safety would be the main thing, but you're right. If there's less fans in the stadium on the road, your communication should be better.
And last, I don't know if you have been able to see any Latino kickers in the state that might got your attention. Obviously, I popped this question whenever you were presented, but we haven't have a Latino kicker since Alex Tejada. Can you comment on that?
I really can't talk about recruits, but if they can kick, we're going to recruit them. I promise you that. And I'm not talking about they Latinos. I'm talking about they whoever's. I mean, whoever can kick, we're going to take them. And certainly.
Thank you, Coach. I will send them your way.
Come on. Help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hayden.
Hey, Coach, how are you? Good to see you. I know last season, obviously, Georgie coached a couple of first-rounders, and now there's been a few, not a ton, but a few maybe first-round draft prospects that have decided to sit out this season. Have you had any guys talk to you about, Coach, is it a good idea if I sit out this year, or is everyone 100% on board with playing this season?
As of right now, today, I haven't had anybody express any concern about them not any interest in not playing this season.
Good deal. My last one for you, just we all know the grind of fall camp and just how it goes, and with practice moving back, just how excited are you just to get out there, be on the field, coach them, be there with them, and have a little bit of sense of normalcy when you guys get on the field?
Yeah, it's going to be unbelievable. You may or may not understand, but when you work a 12 to 14-hour day and you're doing it again and you're sweaty and you're with a group of guys all towards the same vision that you have and the players, and you see them getting better, and you go in the locker room with your coach's locker room and the camaraderie you have in there, we've missed that. And I'm looking forward to it. And yes, I'm looking forward to a 14-hour day, and it is what it is. It's what we do. We've done it. I've done it for a long time, and I miss it, and so do our coaches. And, yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Coach, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Terry Wood.
Hi, Coach Pittman. Could you tell us a little bit about the development of the quarterback so far? And secondly, could you give us a couple of guys who've maybe stood out or maybe even surprised you by their play?
Well, we haven't been able to, anything full speed, we're not allowed to do there. So it's not positive how they're throwing the football, but how they're running the offense. All of them have done a really good job. I've been really pleased with how KJ Jefferson's picked up the offense and sees where he's supposed to go with the ball and those things of that nature. And of course, we're really happy that Felipe Franks is here. He's doing a really good job. But you look at Malik and John and so I think we're doing pretty good up there. And Jack Lindsay, they're all doing good. But the Kendall Brow's offense is not that hard to learn. It's just fast. And so you have to know it, the ins and outs of everything, because he's going to snap the football, and you need to understand where you're supposed to go pretty fast.
And secondly, is there anybody that's maybe stood out or even surprised you? Maybe a couple on offense, a couple on defense in the workouts.
Yeah, and guys, I hate to be vague and this and now that you guys realize we've been walkthroughs. So I mean, it's hard to I could name the guys that are doing really well mentally and all that, but it's really hard to figure out who can play good and who can't. We're in a walkthrough with no pads. So, but with that said, I've been pleased with how I like our running back group. I like them. And I think we can have some depth at linebacker. I love our secondary, the way they work. I think we're going to have some depth at O-line. And wide receiver wise, I think we've got to get more depth there. I think everybody believes we're talented there. With the front few guys, we've got to develop some depth there. And then the D-line is probably the one that I've been the most happy with as far as what my mind might have thought how we're going to be versus how we're doing right now. That group, I think, is doing really well.
Nate? Nate, you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Take a little diet Mountain Dew.
Here we go. Sam, how do you feel about this Tyson Morris as far as the film of you saw of him last year? Kind of where do you feel he could fit in this offense?
Well, he's playing wide receiver. I think he got speed. He's big. He's done a nice job for us. What we do, everybody, is in our walkthroughs, we split them. So there's basically whom you might on the depth chart have as a 1, and then the freshmen, and then the 2s and the 3s. Now the depth chart's been moved all over the place because how would you have a depth chart right now? But you have to have one to go to practice. So all these people, all the kids are getting reps, and Tyson has looked good in there, and I tell you, he's done a nice job in the walks and special team as well. So we're proud of him and think he's going to help us at wide receiver.
Thanks.
All right. If you've got questions and we haven't gotten to you, hit me up in the chat and we'll get to you. But we'll get going back around here. Tom, you want to lead us off round 2?
That'd be great. Thanks. So, Sam, if the scheduling pattern holds up, Arkansas would have picked up Georgia next year. And if they follow that, you might end up playing Georgia. What would your thoughts be of if they wound up being on the schedule for you this year?
Well, depends on where we played them. You know, if we went to Georgia, it'd be nice to go back and see all the people there, and you know, they have an incredible fan base. If they came here, if they're allowed, they're going to travel in. I'm going to be telling the Arkansas fans to sell that thing out, because if not, it'll be loaded with Georgia fans, you know. But, you know, I have fond memories of Georgia. They were good to me, the entire state, and, of course, Kirby Smart. And if we played them a year earlier than what I thought, then we'd look forward to playing them.
When the time comes for full contact, in recent years, it's kind of been, you know, a little bit more compartmentalized, a little bit less. How do you feel about how much full contact you're going to need? And do you think more guys will have face shields and just stuff like that to prevent body, you know?
Now, we have them now. We have face in our walks now. What was the first part of your question?
Well, the first part of it was about how much live tackling, full contact stuff you're going to need. And
I think sometimes you have different people who have different beliefs about tackling. You know, anytime you don't scrimmage live, your main concern is going to be, because if you're an OD lineman and you're in shells, you're full speed. I mean, you know what I mean. But you're concerned about who can hang on to the football, you know, and you're concerned about who can tackle. We have a defensive staff that believes they can teach tackling in their individual drills. So we have to decide how many times we're going to scrimmage. Our depth may not be quite what we'd like right now. So then you have to take that in consideration, how many times you're going to tackle live to the ground. But it is a part of football, tackling and hitting, and hanging on the ball is a part of football. So you have to be ready once you go out there. So there's a fine line in there. I think we're going to do a lot of individual tackling, a lot of individual tackling on our running backs. A lot of times what causes injury is a guy leg whips another guy, a guy falls on the ground, he falls on a knee, this, that, and the other. So we're going to try to get our tackling and ball handling as much as we can done without having to do it full team, full live. We will have at least one, probably two scrimmages. I don't know that we'll get to three. Be honest with you, I'm just concerned about our depth.
Gotcha. And the last thing I have, you mentioned the D-line being, something that impressed you. What was it you saw that made you think that way?
Well, I think Jonathan Marshall's done a really good job, and then if you look at him and Isaiah Nichols and Eric Gregory, Xavier Kelly, Coates, I mean, those guys, I'm just saying what my mind might have thought where they would be at this point. I don't think that about them. I think that they're big. They're guys that understand. They can move for their size. And I just feel like they can be a good group.
Okay. Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Kyle Beckelbaum.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask a little bit more about Felipe. Someone coming off that kind of injury, transfers to make the most of one season. How is he approaching things right now? I would imagine he's pretty excited. The plan is to have a season.
He's approaching it like a guy that's been an SEC starter for 2+ years. I mean, he's a grown man. He's mature. He's approaching it like he's been there before. And I think that's very important for us, especially because we didn't have spring ball, but we have a guy on our football team that's played a lot of football at quarterback and won a New Year's Day Bowl as the starting quarterback. We got a veteran guy, and I think that's important. I did not just say that he's won the starting job. How can you do that in walkthrough? But I did say that we're awful glad he's on our football team.
When we last talked to Hunter Yurachek, I think you mentioned there was one player, one of your guys currently in quarantine. Is there any update you can give? Are all guys green lighted as far as practicing in about a week?
No, Hunter will have to address that, but like I said before, we're in a good spot.
All right, thanks.
Dudley.
Hey, Coach, appreciate you doing this. Good to see you.
Hey, Dudley.
Obviously, it's been a different recruiting landscape for you with this COVID, but you've had a lot of success over the summer. Can you just talk about the success y'all had as a staff? And also, the state seems to have a lot of young talent. Just talk about maybe what you've seen in that regard from maybe when you were here the last time.
Well, again, it's hard. Recruiting's hard if you can have them on campus and call them all the time. It's hard regardless of what, because of who you're competing against. But we're pleased with where we are right now in recruiting, and we're well aware that our state is very talented, and we're trying to get our kids to stay home, play for the Razorbacks.
Appreciate it.
Matt Jones.
I don't even see Matt on here.
Matt, you're on mute.
Where is he? I'm pretty sure he's still on mute.
Matt, we'll come back. Bob?
Yeah, thanks. I think I'm unmuted there. Sam, you mentioned, I remember when you moved Blaine to tight end, you mentioned how unselfish he was and just wanted to do whatever he could for the team. And I guess he never actually played there, like you said, but now that he's back at defensive end, how do you react when you guys said we we want to put you back there, and kind of what do you anticipate from him at that position?
Well, I think he's going to be a really good player. And I talked him into wearing number 96 whenever he moved over there because I wore 96. Nobody knows it because I wasn't any good or anything, but my college number was 96. So I told him he had big shoes to fill if he wore 96. So he took it. And so we were just trying to make it kind of loose a little bit because we wanted him to go back over to defense. And to be honest with you, that's where he wanted to be, but he was so unselfish, he went to tight end. So we put 96 on him, moved him back over defense, and he's fine. He's doing really good.
And you mentioned Coates, has been among the defensive linemen that's impressed you. I know he had a lot of sacks at JUCO, and I know it's his walkthroughs, but how has he looked? What are you anticipating from him?
I love him. I mean, he's done really well. You run out there in at different times, and you have Marshall and Nichols and Kelly and Coates. Them guys are big guys, I mean, they can hold up against the size of the SEC offensive linemen, and they can move. So I've been really pleased with Coates, and he's working awful hard. Did well today in the team run this morning.
How's Dorian Gerald doing? He obviously had a very serious injury last year, but I see him tweeting, so I guess he's doing okay. What's
and to be honest with you, in these meetings, there's so many guys to talk about, and I miss Dorian, and I shouldn't have. He's really, really looks good. He's got a tremendous foot speed, and he's another guy that should be a leader on our football team. Very vocal guy, and he's been working his tail off. So I've been really pleased with him, of course, and I will be when we put pads on, but we haven't yet. But I promise I will be. He's too talented for us not to be.
Okay, thanks, Sam. I'll see what I can do about getting Pitt State to retire 96.
That won't happen. Nobody wants to wear it, but
Trey Biddy.
Hey, Coach. If I remember, you had actually quite a bit of sacks in number 96 at Pitt State. Don't sell yourself too short. Hey, I was wondering about Felipe's status in terms of his eligibility moving forward, because if I understand the new revised 6-year rule, wouldn't he qualify for a potential 6-year?
Possibly. I don't think I think if he has a good year, which we anticipate him doing, that he'll be gone. But I'm glad you mentioned that. I had to look into that. But in all honesty, I'm planning on him, if he wins a starting job, to have such a good year that we can't keep him. That's my plans.
That sounds nice. And with Toll, was that decision made with Jaquelin not making it to campus? And
100%.
Sorry?
100%.
100%. Okay.
100%. When Jaquelin decided that he didn't want to play football anymore, then we moved Blaine Toll that day.
You probably hate this question, but because it's about asking for specific players, but redshirt freshmen that didn't play a lot last year, just based on what you've seen from maybe guys assuming the leadership roles like you were talking about earlier, and guys who did really strong in the weights and all that stuff, is there anybody that you could see emerging who didn't really contribute last year?
That redshirted, Gatlin, done well. I've been impressed with Luke Jones. I don't know if he redshirted. I think he was more of a transfer. Yeah, he redshirted. He transferred. Who else up there would have redshirted last year? I tell you who's been doing good is Carter.
Torian?
Yeah, I mean, he's done well. Who else am I missing, Kyle? Catalan. Yeah, he's doing well. It's a hard question for me because I can't really remember who redshirted last year. But the young guys, those will be some of them. That off the Marcus Miller he's back, ready to go. He's moving well. So those would be the guys I'd guess, Trey, right off the top of my head.
And lastly, Hunter mentioned the other day that he thinks that the recruiting dead period could be extended out to December 31st. What are your thoughts on that? You think a decision should be made for 4 months and ahead? And what do you think the ramifications would be as far as signing periods?
I think the reason people want camps, and I'm not saying in COVID times, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the reason that you want camps in the summer on a regular basis is so you can evaluate prospects. And there's a difference in a highlight tape and actually what he is. Sometimes he's better than what his tape looked like. Sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's about what you thought. So I do think there's going to be more than ever surprises that you thought that you got this particular athlete and you were surprised one way or the other because you didn't actually get to see them in the specific skill set that you wanted. And I think that's across the board with everybody. And you might go back to sophomore when they were on camp, you look at speed. How do you really know how fast they are unless you have a verified time and all that kind of stuff you can get done on your own campus. We're not able to do that. The other thing certainly is if they keep early signing date and there's no official visits, it's kind of hard for a kid to make a decision, to me. So we had to really level them up. We had to get to know them because right now, if it's not about anything other than the personal relationship with the people that's recruiting them, then we have to be better than anybody else at it.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Matt Jones, we're going to try it again. Matt, you there? All right, Matt's having trouble. Tom, do you have any more?
I'll finish with this one. What have you thought of Hunter's leadership during all this? It's a period of time like we've never gone through before, and I'm sure it's tough on ADs.
I'd say he's probably met more over the computer than he ever would have thought in his life. I'm not speaking for him, but I know this, that when I go into an SEC head coaches meeting, what they're telling me, for the most part, I already know. He's a great communicator. He's a great speaker. We had him over and talked to our team early part of this week or latter part of last week. And he's been very good to me, very good to our coaching staff. And I couldn't imagine having to be the first-time head coach and going through this with anybody else but him, because I think he's done unbelievably a great job.
You've gotten a lot of commitments lately from Oklahoma. Any particular thing that has gone into that has helped spur that?
Well, it is one of our regional states. And so right now, if you were sitting there and you couldn't go out and visit, your parents are probably going to be a little more comfortable if you commit to a school that they can drive to, and the convenience of being able to get back and forth from games. But, I'm from Oklahoma, and I wasn't one of those guys that Arkansas offered a scholarship to, by the way. I wanted them to, but they didn't. But I still am from Oklahoma, and it's just been kind of ironic that I don't know what I can say about recruiting. It's just specific kids, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of been ironic that we're doing pretty good in the state of Oklahoma, because, you know, Missouri borders us, Louisiana borders us, all that. But, you know, John Cooper's from Oklahoma. I'm from Oklahoma. Barry Odom's from Oklahoma. So we have some ties there that's helped us.
I don't know if things have gotten to this point, but let's just say during the season there's an outbreak and a coach or two has it. Are there plans in place where your graduate assistants or someone can come up and be the guy that week on the field and stuff?
Yeah, you have to have that. You know, it's just like on offense, depending on if Kendall's going to be on the field or up in the box. If he's on the field, you better have somebody else that knows, you know, the offense as well as he does and able to signal it. Our quarterbacks are certainly responsible for that as well. But what the NCAA has done, if somebody has the virus, well, then somebody else can step in, and it's kind of like an emergency situation and all that. But, you know, you have Barry Odom. If something happened to me, you know, well, you have Barry that would step into that role. And that's why we're two-spotting. That's why everybody on our team's getting the same amount of reps in these walkthroughs, because if COVID happens on our football team, the next guy has to be available and he has to know what he's doing.
All right.
With the staff, the players, everybody.